Yep.
God,
Yes. I don't care if the meeting's being live streamed. That's fine.
my
Who cares?
cats tore up my fucking bed, yo. I'm telling
Okay.
you.
All right. It popped up that we're live, so we should be good to go.
All right. Cool.
Hi, everyone.
No one's here. What do you mean, hi, everyone?
There's
No
one
one's
person watching, but that's me. But
Oh,
I'll go
okay.
back and forth.
That's you.
But
You're saying hi to your
I'll
fucking
go
self,
back and
yo.
forth.
Oh no, Faustine's here. So,
Hi, Faustine.
hello, darling. Hello, sweetheart.
How are you
We're
today?
we're so glad you're here. If I could tell you how to feel, I
See,
know
I
that you're still hurting too. What are you talking about your tits for?
they look great in this bra. See,
Yeah,
that's why
don't get us banned on YouTube by touching yourself. That it seriously will get me in trouble. That's wonderful. I'm glad for you.
I'm not naked though.
You're not?
No.
Well, yeah, their rules are really sort of ambiguous. Like they say,
I
I guess
don't
I
know.
could show mine.
I don't know what it is. They're very ambiguous, but time to time, I'll see some like little porn shit pop up in my shorts, and I'm like, oh, okay.
In YouTube,
Yeah. I'll have to
like,
send you one day so I can show you so you know that I'm not tripping.
well, the thing I know that they relaxed on was like breastfeeding and certain revealing clothing. Like I was popping out of my red dress one time and I didn't get in trouble. So, and knock on wood, I'm anti-superstition and yet I'm knocking on wood. I don't even have like a prepared talk or anything. I thought we just do live chart readings and bullshit. But what have I been doing today? So I'm doing a whole series on Saturn because I'm Saturn girl. But eventually my goal is for this channel to have all the set, well, actually all the planets, right? From the sun to Pluto through each of the houses in both natal and transit. So is that something that y'all would like? Would you like to see that? I mean, it's just Faustine here and my brother Rory. Hi, I'm glad Rory's here. I'm glad you're here. Why did you turn off your camera, Zoom user? Zoom user?
I
That
was
was my
going,
old nickname,
I
Zoom
was going
user.
comments real quick to respond back to the people.
Okay, I'm just calling you Zoom user.
Oh, I need to change my name. You're absolutely right. Forgot about that.
I'm just gonna call you Zoom user. Oh, it
It's
calls
a
me by my real name. I don't want it to do that. I gotta fix all that shizzle, yo. I gotta fix all that shizzle. I don't know how though. I don't even know how to fix it.
all you got to do is go and click on like the participants thing and it'll say rename. That's what I just did. And you can read
Oh, rename. There we go. Because I'm Saturn. There is no
Saturn girl.
only Saturn.
There
There
is
is
no
no.
Frankie, only Saturn girl.
Yeah. You can't talk when I'm talking though, otherwise it doesn't work. We have to get like a ping pong action, just like in film and movies. They don't be
Mm.
like, ah, yeah, yeah, like one person talks and then the other
Okay.
person
That's
responds.
if that's your way of telling me to be quiet, then I will.
No, I'm not telling you to be quiet. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, you know, like we go back and forth, not like, you know what I mean? That's a special language, by the way. You have to learn that before you become a real astrologer. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but seriously, you know what I'm saying. It's just like, I just think of movies, how, anyway, that's enough of that. But Saturn, we're doing all the planets bit by bit through all the houses in transit and natal. And I'm starting with Saturn. And it's really, really cool, like to go through this exercise because it really makes you focus on the meaning of all these sorts of things. You see? And what's really interesting about the mythology of Saturn, well, not even the mythology, but how he's treated in astrology. So Dorotheus of Sidon, an ancient astrologer, he was born around 75 AD CE. He wrote Carmen Astrologicum. This is translated by Dr. Benjamin Dykes. Yes. But a wonderful, wonderful text to help you understand ancient astrology. But he lists Saturn as one of the female planets. And if you think about it, that would make perfect fucking sense, wouldn't it? Because we've got how many? We got 3 male planets, don't we? We have the sun, right? We have Jupiter, and we have Mars, right? And then they typically throw Saturn in there. And then there's only 2 female planets, Venus and the moon. But if we have Saturn on the female side, you know what I'm saying? Then it makes more sense. It evens out. And wouldn't it make sense for like the enemy of the sun to be a woman? You know? I don't know. I just identify with Saturn more as feminine and female. And when I first heard about that, it just made me feel vindicated in that, you know? So you see, Saturn girl, we already know that Venus, Inanna, is my mummy, right? But Saturn girl has 2 mummies. Right? Could be my new children's book. Saturn girl has 2 mummies. And although you can't say anything like that anymore, can you? In some states, they'll straight up throw you in jail for saying that. Florida, excuse me. I've got the Florida cough. Sucks. Terrible illness. Indigo Breeze, hello, my sweet. Wait, top chat. I need to do live chat so I can see. But Amber's going and answering and doing things. I don't know what Amber's doing, to be honest with you. What are you doing, Amber?
Trying to figure out why my Wi-Fi keeps going in and out, but it's fine. Hi, Mandy. Hi, Indigo. I got it fixed now, but it's fine.
Well, anyway, I'd love to look at y'all's charts.
If y'all need to drop your birth info below, maybe we can go through transits. Maybe we can figure out, what's just going on in general in the sky, because it's not nice to any of us right now in the moment.
Eclipses, synastry, Saturn, progressions, zodiacal releasing. Yeah.
I can't make everything about me and Frankie now. Like, we can't just talk about ourselves for 2 hours.
Yeah, we're here to please you so that you guys actually sort of follow in the future and maybe even get a reading someday. So, this isn't all sort of altruistic for fun and everything. Like, we do have a business. So,
well, both of us do.
Both of us do. You're exactly right. And you also collaborate with me. So.
Which we love, obviously. I'm a Saturn girl simp, but I think it's because it's all of my Leo energy in your 7th house that makes me so simpy for you.
Well, thank you. I can never get enough simps. But this is one of the wonderful things I've been realizing about myself lately. So Pluto is conjunct my ascendant right now. And a couple weeks ago, I was at a kink event and I realized I really liked bottoming and being dominated and impact. I was always on the other end of it all. And it was really liberating to be on the submissive end. And it was really awesome. Really, really, really awesome. So, coming up here, I'm going to Femdom night with a very, very pretty lady who I met. Oh, goodness gracious. She was a boxer. A boxer. Like, oh my God. You were a boxer. Like, I love tough ladies, I love tough ladies. But they have to be a little kind and compassionate. You know, my track record was falling for people who didn't have a sense of empathy whatsoever, at least not for me. So, you know, but you live and you learn. And that's part of the Saturn thing is codependency. And so I'm doing this, like I'm working on this whole thing about Saturn in the first house, you see. And it really does help in a lot of ways to think about Saturn as feminine, you know? It really does, because it puts things in perspective a little bit. There's a real passive side to Saturn as well. You see, I mean, he rules, everyone thinks of Capricorn as like daddy and really directed, but it's a feminine sign. It's an earth sign. There's something resistant about it. There's a passivity about Capricorn. I love Capricorn. The dummy mama I'm interested in is a Capricorn. I mean, I've got a couple people going on. I got a date tomorrow too. I'm a slut. I'm sorry. I had a couple over last night and that was fun. But, you know, it didn't go all the way, which is unfortunate. But, you know, I get to have fun here and there. But what really matters about all this sort of stuff, right, is authenticity. Because before Neptune, Saturn was the deceiver. In fact, all the outer planets got their significations from Saturn, right? Before Uranus was discovered, and yes, I like to say Uranus because I'm immature. Uranus and my Uranus, right? But when Uranus was discovered, well, the attributions given to him were more in the late 1800s. And that's an interesting story I'll tell another time. Or maybe I'll tell it now, because it is a very interesting story. Hello, Neen. Hello, MZ, Ms. Colston, and Whitney. Hello, sweetheart. Hello, Mandy. Mandy G. So anyway, Uranus got his significations from Saturn, because before Uranus was the revolutionary, it was who? Saturn. Before Pluto was death and power, it was who? Saturn. So my mama Saturn, my other mommy, as I'm now referring to her, in the tradition of Dorotheus of Sidon, and people who studied Carmen Astrologicum. These motherfuckers, I tell you, I've had haters coming at me with modern astrological bullshit like, you're wrong about this and wrong about that. Like, motherfucker, you're reading shit from like, you know, bullshizzle, from the new age nonsense. We know better now the source of a lot of these significations and the source of the meaning of a lot of these things and the rationale for astrological techniques and how the way they work as they work. So anyway, going back to Uranus though, this is a really interesting story about Uranus. You see, Uranus was discovered by a guy named, was it William Herschel? Something Herschel.
I think it was Herschel.
Is that what it was? And I can't remember the year off the top of my head. I think it was like
You are correct. I believe you are correct, but I can't Google the year if you like me to.
It was the 1700s, late 1700s.
I think it was like 1793, if I'm not wrong.
Somewhere, I think you're right. It was at the end of the 1700s. So anyway, William Herschel here discovered the planet. So it was named Herschel for the longest time. Until finally, sort of arbitrarily, they settled on Uranus. And Uranus, of course, was the name of the sky god, who was Saturn's father, right? And when he got castrated, his cojones, his cherry bombs got chopped off and they fell into the ocean, right? And the semen from in there fizzled and foamed up in the ocean. And guess who was born? My mama. See, this is a different myth though. Aphrodite, right? But the whole Aphrodite, Venus, right? Ishtar Inanna tradition goes back way further. She's one of the old gods, my mommy is. But you see, that was the Roman and the Greek myth, more or less, right? That the balls dropped in the water and the semen foam made my mommy, right? Well, anyway, that's sort of the mythology behind it. But where did he get his significations? Because there's nothing in those significations that has anything to do with that myth, is there? Right? So there was a gentleman named John Varley, and I believe this is in the 1830s. This is around the time of William Blake, right? And the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. I better just double check. John Varley. John Varley. No. John Varley. Uranus. John Varley. So this is, I was pretty close, 1828, right? 1830s. So this is the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. Yeah. And William Blake, the famous poet, author, artist, was a contemporary and a friend of John Varley. Quite interesting. And John Varley was primarily an artist, if I'm not mistaken, and an author as well. But he had a big interest in astrology, you see. And he had theories about what Uranus meant from previous observations. So he tried to make predictions based on these. His hypothesis was that Uranus was a malefic planet of sorts that represented sudden, violent conflicts, interruptions, events, stuff like that. So he made his predictions that something would happen to his house on a particular day because of how Uranus was aspecting his chart or something like that. So he arrived at this one day and he was hanging out around his place, you know, waiting for something to happen. And his house caught fire. In fact, the whole place burned to the ground with everything he owned. And as a true genius, he had no insurance. What a smart guy. But you know what? That didn't bother John Varley. Because instead, he ran out excited and he got his notebook out and he started scribbling everything down. His son was the one who recounted this story and said, like, yeah, crazy guy. He was so excited about this that his place caught fire and burned to the ground as he's watching, that he wrote it all down because his hypothesis was more or less correct. And we can see Uranus in practice having to do with violent eruptions and conflicts. Yeah, things like that. And we're going into the third Uranus return of the United States. So Amber is managing everyone's stuff right now. So if you want to talk about your natal chart and have me look at what's going on, you better put your shit in the comments. So, and it's okay, I'm drinking apple juice. Someone was really lame one time and said, Saturn girl live, more like Saturn girl drunk. Motherfucker. Wow. You know.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna be drunk, then I need to be drunk too. I just feel like it's
I'm not, I'm drinking apple juice.
I know you're drinking apple juice and I'm drinking water.
Yeah.
No, I really
Oh, okay.
I've been on a cleanse.
Cool, bro.
Cool, bro.
So anyway, I hope that's sort of an interesting story about Uranus.
Hi, Amber. There's another Amber. Hi, Amber.
Oh, I'm hot right now, but I'm going to get cold eventually.
Well, other Amber, I just want to tell you, there's only one Amber that exists in Frankie's heart, and it's me. There's no other Amber.
Oh no, there's a couple other Ambers, don't worry.
No. I'm the special one. I'm the only one that exists.
There's this one redhead I know named Amber who's like, and she's a Leo too.
Why is every redhead a fucking Leo or has Leo placements?
I don't know. I got a fucking thing with Leos, yo. But they love me. Leos love me. Leos and Sages love me. And apparently Leo and Sag risings love me. And Leo and Sag moons love me. All these places.
Well,
So,
I'm a Libra rising, so I automatically love you because of your Libra placements.
because my moon is in your, is it my Saturn conjunct your ascendant or something like that?
I think which one is at an earlier degree, your moon or your Saturn?
Oh, my moon's at an earlier degree. It's
So probably the moon then.
my Saturn is 28 degrees.
Oh yeah, so then that's towards the end, but it's still in my first house no matter what.
So, well, Whitney says she's a Leo with Sag rising. You better stay away from me. You better stay away from me. A I have such a magnetic personality. It's horrible. I just, people just gravitate.
Hi,
So
Whitney. She said I couldn't get the keyboard. I couldn't get to the keyboard fast enough. Oh, you're so sweet. She said I'm a Capricorn sun and moon and Aquarius rising. Oh, Lord Jesus, you need a hug.
no,
Jesus.
she needs me.
Hey, listen. All that Capricorn stuff is in my fourth house of home. So you come this way, I'll make you feel like home. I
I
got
don't
you.
know what it is about Cappy mommies and me, but yeah, I got a thing for Capricorn women. It's
Whitney said I'm a Scorpio moon. Yes. Oh,
That's
we like
okay. I'll mess with the Scorpio moon again.
Scorpio moons, especially when it's conjunct my Mars.
You see, Scorpio moons are often, I think the reason why I attract so many is because their moons are trine my Venus. But see, the shitty thing about it all is I'm still an Aquarius rising and I'm still a Libra moon. So it's like, I love intensity. I'm Plutonian. I have Pluto square my ascendant and conjunct my moon. But my Aquarius kicks in, my Libra kicks in, and it's like, yo, can't we just be like all intense for 3 hours or so? And then I'll call you later in a couple days and we could do it again. But I got other people to see, you know. It's not like I'm a meal that's meant to be held by one person. I'm supposed to be shared. I'm like fish flakes to sprinkle so all the little fishes can eat some. Fish, 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 fish. But I want to look at your fucking charts. Come on. I want to see your chart. Gosh, I feel fat. Mm.
We just can't talk about me and Frankie. Like, I need to see y'all's natal charts. So please, 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 please drop your birth info below.
I can
Date,
always just keep
time.
talking. I can keep talking for hours.
I know. I'm trying to establish what you would like. Date, time, city, y'all. Date, time, city. In that order. In that order. I don't care about no zip codes. I just need date, time, city. That's it.
Area codes. I got hoes.
In different areas.
Area codes. That takes me back to high school. That's old school. That,
I mean,
that
nobody
was
comments
before you were
on
even born.
Frankie with me. That's fine.
What's up, darling?
I said if nobody comments their birth stuff, I'll just let you expose me.
Oh, you talking about yours? I'm sick of looking at yours.
I know you're sick of looking at mine because it's just a square.
It's not just a square. The big
Yes,
thing is your opposition between Mars and the sun to me. Just a
it's
square.
that opposition between Saturn and Mars that's like so fucking infuriating because it's only minutes away.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the most potent aspects in your chart.
It's so difficult.
Whitney's a Scorpio moon, and so is Melissa. Oh, excuse me. You see, the problem with Scorpio moons and me, I get attached to. I'm a Cancer Venus, but Scorpio moons get like attached. You're mine. It's like fucking Gollum, like my precious, my precious. Like I'm a lot of people's precious. You know. Doesn't work like that. And there's nothing worse than a Scorpio moon who says they're poly. And I'm like, you liar. You're not poly.
They're really not.
It's like you want to sink your tail into me. It's what you want to do. Anyway, we've got Amber. Are you paying attention? Because people have put their stuff up here. We've got we got we
I
got
just looked at that, sweetheart. Are you ready?
huh?
Are you ready? I just looked at the chat, but are you ready?
Are you right? That's that. Maybe
Are you
take a
ready
corn.
to suck it? I don't know
What
why.
reminded me of the band Corn? You're too young for that. That was when I was in middle
I
school.
am not too young. Listen, I keep telling you this. I grew up in a home where everyone listened to rock music. So corn is not something that's too far out of memory for me.
You were born when I was like having sex and in high school and all this sort of stuff.
And my
It's just
mother is 10 years older than you, ma'am. So what makes you think
and
that
my sister is older than your mother.
what makes you think I'm not listening to this rock music? Like I love Van Halen, Metallica. I'm a huge Ozzy simp for sure. It
I
must be
love
all
Black Sabbath. Black
yes,
Sabbath is wonderful.
black.
I just
It's
hate Metallica. I really can't.
why?
Because I hate Lars Ulrich and I hate James Hetfield. Actually, James Hetfield's a pretty good guy, apparently. And it's just I don't like the music. I like death metal and black metal, you know.
Well,
Like I
that's
was a big Cradle of Filth fan when I was in high school. So
hey
Whitney
Whitney,
Williams says I sent it
drop
to you
your
on Facebook, Frankie. What did Whitney Williams send to me?
I don't mean to interrupt you, but she sent her stuff. Can you just drop it in the live chat below? That would be so much easier for us, just so we don't have to switch back and forth between things.
Yeah, it's hard to go back and find it. I don't see where you did it, honey. I don't see it.
If it's something private that you want us to
Oh,
not,
she sent it over my private stuff.
yeah,
Is
if
it
it's
because you
something
don't want
private,
it shared? I imagine it's for privacy purposes.
yeah, that's what I would assume too.
So I do have hers, but Ms. Colston first. I
Yeah,
have
so
I have to open up Solar Fire. But okay, so I do have Whitney Williams' stuff.
okay, good. So
I
she can
do
be.
have those stuff. Oh, so when we get to her, I'll pull it up. Just remind me.
I got you.
Cool. Where's Ms. Colston? Ms. Colston. I want to say it like, I don't know, an Agatha Christie thing.
I'll be
Ms.
right back.
Colston, I presume. You'll be right back, huh? After these messages, we'll be right back. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. How do I do this now? Oh, I do it from here. I'm not good at all this shit. I need my brother or Amber to do all this for me. I'm completely incapable of doing things, you know? I'm like, oh, wait, no, I don't want everyone to see my whole screen. That's not what I wanted to do. I want people to see part of my screen. I want them to see this part. There we go. So this is Ms. Colston. And I've looked at Ms. Colston's chart many times. It's Mardi Gras time here in Nolens, huh? Sweet. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Mardi Gras is that time right before Lent. I was raised Catholic, so very Catholic, in fact. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Right? No nombre de what? What do they say? I can't remember. I don't. Was it Pater? Oh, in nombre de Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Right? Is that what it was in Latin? Anyway, Cancer rising and a Cancer moon. I mean, technically, in another life, your moon would be conjunct my Venus, a wide conjunction, but still conjunct nevertheless. I'm sorry, but when we're doing this from Zoom, all your shit gets put up there like on Front Street. I'm sorry, but see, when I do this shit through Streamlabs,
We
and
try
I
not
gotta,
to.
what are you whining about?
No, I'm just talking to them, just the people in general. Like we try not to be this way. It's just that, it is what it is. So if you're not comfortable with your birth chart out in public, then probably not watch this, but your choice.
Well, and in Streamlabs, I can, crop the screen so it just shows your chart without the stuff. But Amber and I have to figure out how to do this in tandem on Streamlabs so we can both be on here, because I need to yell at her in live, right? Like she needs to be here to hear me like yell at her and also to respond to my yelling, because I don't know. It's how I show my love for her, you know. It's how I show my love for
You
Amber.
show your ever loving and dying support by listening to the BS that happens in my life, and I love you for that truly. And if only people knew the connection that we had outside of all of this in real life, I really do appreciate you.
And they wouldn't think I'm such a mean person.
No, actually, you guys really don't understand. She really is a total sweetheart. Like, I'm so glad I've gotten the chance to really become closer, or at least in some sense. I'm very blessed to have her in my life.
But I am a mean person.
I mean, you are a bitch sometimes, but we're both bitches sometimes. But it's like we have a connection that, like, that I wouldn't ask for in any other friend,
Yeah. Okay, no. Let's look at Ms. Colston's chart.
Yeah, I hate you so bad. I'm trying to be nice to you.
I know. Stop now.
Just let me be nice, serenade you for a moment. Don't reject me, because I know Big Daddy Saturn's gonna be like, ew, feelings.
She's
But I just
Mama Saturn to me. She's my grandmommy. I mean, I always say Grandma Moon, but I guess Saturn is like my old lady. Who's that old lady? That's my old lady. That's from Wayne's World too. But you wouldn't know that because you're too young for that. But see, Ms. Colston's Venus is conjunct my ascendant. One of the interesting things though about all this is she's right on the cusp of her Venus return. So what's really interesting about all this, I think of, as I talked about in the past, Venus is about to go into Aquarius, right? On the 16th, which is coming up soon, and it's my first house, and it happens to be a special time for love for me. So I'm hoping things get, I mean, they've already been interesting, but I mean, like, more interesting, you know? I mean, you see, I like fooling around with people. That's all wonderful. I like having casual encounters and all that. But I want some emotion too. Like, I want some emotion and connection and not just like one of these women I dated called me an ice queen. And I'm like, I'm not an ice queen. I'm so sensitive. But in other respects, like Venus and Aquarius, right? We can be ice queens with those Aquarius placements when we don't feel that connection. And it's interesting because Ms. Colston, right, her seventh house is Capricorn, right? So she's got Saturn very unhappy in Leo. So relationships haven't been the best. And we've probably talked about that in the past, but it's the first thing I noticed. And I don't really remember your fucking chart. So, you know. But anyway, I wanted to talk about Venus. So Venus coming in, though, she's going to be conjunct Pluto. And the thing about Venus conjunct Pluto you have to understand is it often represents the struggle between power and femininity, and even with innocence. Now, in our personal lives, it often manifests as sexual trauma in some way. or a power dynamic with that. And you guys should go back and watch it, but it's also when I wasn't as good at making videos, and I'm still not good, but I was even less good. But I do a whole video on Pluto Venus aspects and how they followed the Jeffrey Epstein saga, right? Up until Guillain. I'm not French, but you know that it's a French name, Guillain Maxwell, right? She's British, but it's a French name, Guillain or Guillain, whatever the fuck it is. But up until she was sentenced and put in prison. And it's funny because apparently she's a big Karen in prison. Like she's yelling at the guards and asking for special things and like, let me speak to your manager. Well, she says it in a British accent. Let me speak to your manager. I don't know what that was, but you know, it sounded more like a Muppet accent. But anyway, so I did a wonderful video on that where Pluto Venus aspects follow that whole saga. So you should watch it to get a better understanding of how these things sort of express. You see? Because Pluto conjunct Venus does often bring that. Now, this is a whole wider thing, but it is in your 8th house. And Pluto's in your 8th house now. I wouldn't read a whole lot into that because it's going to be the 20-year background of your life. And I do a video with all the horoscopes, right, that you should watch on Pluto and all of the fucking houses. But it's the angular ones that really matter. And the 1st house for Aqua risings, right? That's really important. But you see, Pluto is conjunct your natal Venus, and then Venus is coming in here. Now, so this is wild. And I have to tell you and be quite honest with you that Pluto in transit was opposite my Cancer Venus during my divorce. So I'm not saying that's going to happen to you, but that did happen to me. Pluto was opposite Venus pretty much the whole time my divorce stuff was going on. When I first got separated and then everything else kind of ensued. But also what it did, it began to free me up and break up these old relationship patterns. Because you see, my mother, not the nicest person, she has mental illness of her own, and I had mental illness of my own. I'm not the greatest person ever, and it's never, you know, all about, they did this to me, and I'm just a victim. No, we all have active participation in how our destiny unfolds. A lot of it we don't have a choice of. But what matters is the parts that we do have choices in. And the choices that we make, as C.S. Lewis said, every choice we make leads us in aggregate, right, to either be a heavenly creature or a hellish one. So it's all of our little choices that build that up, you see. So anyway, I mentioned, you know, mother not a nice woman. I have mommy issues. And so I repeated the same codependency and, you know, abusive patterns with people, right? Who, some of them Aqua Venuses, who didn't have any sensitivity or weren't interested in that sensitivity and all that sort of thing. And again, that was very familiar to me. So it took a lot to become aware of all these sorts of things. So Pluto, right, conjunct your Venus could break up some of these old patterns that have sort of held you back. Or, what's the word? Kept you stationary, haven't let you enjoy these sorts of things. But Pluto, everyone talks about Pluto being transformation. Motherfucker, what do they mean? It means life-shattering crisis. Transformation. Transformation. I'm fucking transgender. That shit doesn't happen like gently and wonderfully. It happens through conflict. It happens through struggle. You see, how do you make a diamond? How do you make a precious gem? It's heat and pressure. It's another cliche, but you understand what I'm saying. That Pluto threshes you, right? Think about the god associated with Pluto also. you know, the underworld, the lord of things that, right? Plutus in Greek mythology was, he literally was wealth, but he represented the precious gems from under the earth, you see, that were created through the heat and pressure. And Pluto has a lot to do with will and power, which again, heat and pressure are very apt symbols of, aren't they? So you can see this as very transformative, but it's going to come at a price. And it's going to come at the price of letting go of old patterns, crystallized habits, things that no longer become you. But it's always painful, right? Because having familiar things ripped away is never pleasant, is it? But I can promise you this. I was terrified as I went through my stuff, absolutely terrified. And I was afraid of life. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm absolutely grateful for it now. I am absolutely grateful for this stuff now. I'm glad I went through those struggles. I'm glad I went through all that stuff because it made me more who I am, who was always there. But you see, it shatters the outer shells. That stuff gets ripped off. It's like having layers of pretense, layers of skin sort of ripped off like an onion to reveal more and more of who and what you really are. So, you know, this is not going to be pleasant. But you've already had Pluto opposite your ascendant, you know, way back in what was that, 2009 or some shit like that. But anyway, I just think that's really interesting. So we should move on to someone else's chart, though. We really should. I mean, I was going to talk about Venus enclosure. I'll mention it really briefly. Venus is going to go into your 8th house. After being in your 7th, it's been quite nice, hasn't it? I mean, well, Mars has been going through your 7th, causing issues in relationships typically. And Venus comes up and sort of smooths things over. She's been trailing Mars for a while. But you see, then she's going to overtake Mars in your 8th house. Mars is going to enter in first on the 12th, and that's going to make you spendy, right? Venus comes in and says, hey, let's chill. Let's take stock of our resources. But do you see, then she crosses over Mars and goes into enclosure. Zoom user disappeared. Here comes Zoom user.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I don't know what the hell is going on with my stuff, but it's literally just kicked me out for no reason.
It kicks you out for, oh, it's probably your Wi-Fi then.
No, it just kicked me out and said that you ended the stream, which I know is not true.
Okay,
So,
are we still streaming?
yes, we are. That's what I'm very confused about.
Oh,
Okay, so I got it fixed now. I'm just kind of agitated, but you're fine. Go ahead. Whenever you're ready for the next chart, just let me know. I'm just letting you talk.
well, I want to check the comments really quick. Ms. Colston says midheaven's in the 9th or 10th. Midheaven's in the 9th, yeah. So midheaven's in the 9th. Tip, you know, that used to be known as temple jobs. Things having to do with spirituality, foreign cultures, travel, the law, the laws a lot of times, philosophy, academia. But I see, I've had clients with that same placement in all sorts of professions. But often they do have a predisposition towards law or academia or religion or spirituality or foreign languages or things like that, oftentimes associated with the 9th house. Anyway, but the important thing about Venus is she's going to be a little pain in the ass here. And you're all of a sudden, you just got to watch your fucking spending here. That's the moral of the story. Like from February 16th on, or really February 12th until what? March. What are we going to say? March. Early
It's not,
March, more or less.
it's March 10th.
March 10th. Thank you.
when Venus enters Pisces.
Thank you. She'll still be enclosed, but she'll be out of your 8th house. Thank you. That's what I meant, Amber. Perfect. Good job, Amber. Thank you.
I always got your back, girly.
Thank you. Except when you spell the cities wrong, but that's okay.
I'm sorry. The last time I was in a geography class was 2017.
I know. I'm just playing. I'm just
I
playing.
know. That's fine. I just want us to have this banter back and forth because people seem to enjoy it.
I think it's interesting.
I think it's fun.
I think it's interesting too. So anyway, but we should go on to someone else's now because I mentioned enough. Let me stop share. Stop
Okay.
share. Who is
So,
next?
so there's another Amber, but
Another Amber.
Amber OTL. So I don't know how you want to do that.
All these Ambers.
I know there's so many Ambers. Ambers unite. Let us all come together.
It's just so many people wanted to name their girls with stripper names. I don't know what it was.
You think Amber is a stripper name?
I
Firstly,
mean,
it's
kind of.
fossil sap.
What?
It's fossil sap.
It's fossil sap? No, I know, but yeah, and it's a color, but
It also is the color because the Life Touch photos. Does your daughter ever take professional pictures at school?
oh yeah. Yeah, of course.
Life Touch, they'll ask you what background you want it as, and it'll say amber, and that's like the tannish background.
Yo, where's Amber's birth info, homie?
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
It's 12/24. Ooh, a Christmas baby, 1992. Aw.
Oh my goodness. I think I was in 5th grade.
10:10 a.m. Plant Planty. Okay, I'm just gonna spell it out for you. Plantation Gardens, Florida.
Plantation Gardens, Florida.
Plantation Gardens, Florida.
Perfect.
Do you have 10:10 a.m.?
That's what you said. Yeah, I have 10:10 a.m.
No, I'm just
From
double
you.
checking. Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Amber, for confirming. Thank you. Okay, you're good to go then. Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. No, I mean it's like one of those names that's like, Amber, Madison,
So like it's
Candy,
so common and white girl-ish. It's just like ugh. It's like I'm
Haley.
hospitality. Like I wanted something with a different, I wanted something different, like Amberly or. But it's fine, I guess.
No, it's a cute name. I'm just being a bitch.
When
There's
are you?
tons. What?
When are you not though?
There's tons of girls I like named Amber, but there's this one redhead named Amber who's just fucking gorgeous. Like she's a straight up goddess. Like, oh my God. Oh,
I just need to give a shout out to my redhead friend, my favorite Libra on planet Earth, Justice. She's a fucking gorgeous redhead. The redhead I sent you pictures of, she's so fucking gorgeous.
tell her she should move to Colorado.
Well, I'll ask her and her fiance if they want to move, but
Beyonce.
what? They've been together for years. They have a little, oh my God, her daughter is so cute. I just want to, squeeze
Okay,
her.
we need to look at people's charts. I don't give a fuck about her fiance or her daughter. I don't.
Okay. Okay. You have charts pulled up ready to go?
Yeah, but you keep, anyway. She's just gorgeous. I know. Okay. Okay.
She
Ooh,
said,
look, you got an awkward.
Amber said, LOL, I have a pole, but I'm not a stripper. What you mean, girl? You could be a stripper in private. What are you talking about? We can
Oh,
all
but
be
then everyone's a stripper because they're taking their clothes off every day when they shower and
but
go to bed.
in private. Are you wrong for that? I mean, you're not taking your clothes off for anybody but yourself if you're going to be a stripper.
I don't know. I'm an exhibitionist, and I always think of stripping as doing it in front of people. But
That's my book about Aquarius rising is that they just they have this just love to be naked. I don't know what it is, but they love to be naked.
I mean, it's true. But
It
anyway,
is.
See, this is wonderful because I'm writing this whole video because I write scripts. Like I don't just do shit off the cuff for my videos, like just for the lives I do it.
No, we actually take time and plan stuff out or try to. We
On the
really do.
lives, you don't gotta lie to kick it, girl.
No, we do work hard and try to like theorize ideas about what things would be popular and what things wouldn't.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, we do some, but usually
Or at
goes
least
off
I
the
try to
rails.
personal time just try to see what's popular. But it's like, all the all the new age TikTokers want to talk about placidus and whatnot, so it doesn't really apply to our thing. But there's always opportunity for us to just do things in whole sign and just equal it out and prove people wrong. But natal chart reading, let's get on to that.
I was trying to follow what you were saying,
No, it's fine. My thought is over with now.
but we are doing whole sign. That we are doing. I don't know what other people are fucking doing, and I
I
don't
know a lot
understand.
of but here's the thing: a lot of the TikTok astrologers they don't do whole sign; they often do placidus. So it's just something I can't follow with anymore.
I don't know why that. Ugh,
Like me being
TikTok
introduced to astrology,
astrology.
that's how I learned astrology was by
Hey,
way of placidus. But it's like I've reversed that sort of thing because I relate more to placidus as a or not placidus, but whole sign. I relate more to whole sign as opposed to placidus. Does that make
good.
sense?
That makes sense. And it makes sense that you're basically saying TikTok astrologers are fucking idiots. So now we're going to look at this chart. And I can tell you probably unequivocally that they're fucking idiots because I think well, most people are. But we have an Aquarius rising like me and another Aquarius Venus. And, the ascendant and the Venus are technically trying my North Node. Yeah. They're trying my North Node. So, Amber, it was meant to be between you and me. I mean, not really, but you're a new moon, baby, and it's also in the 12th house. I mean, that's rough. My
I mean,
first,
that new moon trines my Venus, that Saturn, all of it trines my Venus. And oh, never mind. Not trying my Venus. Okay. I'm looking in the wrong direction.
you're
Let me stop.
killing me, Smalls. You're killing
Okay.
me.
I'll hush for a moment. You do your thing.
You're killing me, homie. But a new moon, I mean, the moon's not happy, of course. It's not a happy moon. And I really don't like seeing the moon in the 12th house. I'm not going to lie. Because the first things I think of are mental health problems, and it could be depression, it could be addiction, it could be bipolar disorder. There's all sorts of things. Now, the other thing about that, though, sometimes is you find people in the healing professions with that, though, too. Often social worker types or therapists or people who work with addicts or the mentally ill or oppressed people who are isolated in some way or ostracized or outcasts. You see, a lot of the 12th house gets its significations from Saturn because it's where Saturn finds his joy in the 12th house. But that's what's interesting about Saturn, and Saturn rules liminal spaces, really. Liminal spaces are the boundaries between one place and another, between existence and non-existence, right? It's the middle way, so to speak, that Nagarjuna talked about, the liminal. If y'all need to look up Nagarjuna, I really recommend you do. He changed my life with the Mula Madhyamaka. But anyway, it's a very, it's an old Buddhist text and it's hard to approach, but it really summarizes this whole idea of liminal spaces to me, which is very much the 12th house and very much Saturn. Saturn rules the back rooms. Yeah. My favorite levels in the back rooms are like the water ones with like the tiles. You know, the tiles and the water, the pool rooms. And that's very Saturnian. And Saturn has a lot to do with water, interestingly enough, and seafaring, because those were the boundaries of the known earth and the known lands, the edge of the sea, the edge of the ocean, right? And the 12th house, as I said, is a liminal space. And Rhetorius, the ancient astrologer, referred to the 12th house as the space between worlds. You know, so the 12th house is not a fun place. It is bad for the most part. It's difficult, it's challenging, but it has its positive sides in that we feel the other side. We have a sense of the intangible, of the ineffable, of the things that people can't even imagine sometimes. We have a sense of the unnameable. And in that way, it is sort of related to spirituality, even though a lot of us ancient astrologer types say, no, it isn't, right? Because of all this, it's self-undoing. But also think about what self are we undoing, right? And in the process of self-discovery is what? Self-undoing. So there's a wonderful potential with the whole 12th house thing, you see. It's not all terrible. It's not all addiction and alcoholism and bipolar disorder and mental illness stuff and depression. There's more to it, and there's healing involved. And there's also healing in isolation, you see. And we do see people involved in the therapy professions and in social work and those who are involved in the relief of suffering. Both the 12th and the 6th house. And you have a 6th house Mars, don't you? Right? But more importantly, Pluto's going into your 1st house. Now, it's going to be a long time before Pluto gets to your ascendant. But just the fact of Pluto entering the 1st house, you see, is going to stimulate a bunch of fucked up stuff in your life. Now, this is 20 years Pluto spending in Aquarius in our 1st houses. So again, it's just the backdrop of life. But you'll really feel it. Let me look really quick. When will Pluto be at 20 degrees? 21 degrees. When will Pluto be at 21 degrees?
34. 2034, 2035, because that's what it's going to be opposite my sun and moon.
2034, 2035?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That was useful. That was very useful.
Well, we talked
Yes.
about this in my Saturn return / Pluto reading, so I figured, because the date's kind of important off the top of my head. As soon as I heard degrees, I was like, oh, okay, that's opposite my moon, so that's going to be like 2035.
See, I don't remember everything from every reading, so that would be terribly difficult for me. But anyway, so yeah, between 2035 and 2037, those 2 years are going to be wild for you. Now, it seems like they're very, very far off, but you're also very, very, very young. So it's okay. You have some, well, you're 10 years younger than me, basically. So what is this? 2024. So what, 15 years? Just think back. You can remember 15 years back at least at this point, right? That shit goes by, especially as you get older. It's wild. I mean, I'm only 40, but it's really wild how it happens. Now, anyway, Mars opposite Neptune, that's tough. So when I see stuff like that and I see this 12th house stuff, I do think of people who've had to deal with addiction. I'll look at the chat because I just want to. I feel challenged in my life, but I am blessed. Good. I'm glad. Thank goodness. I feel like a generational curse breaker. Sure. That's wonderful. I feel
And I
like
also feel that same way, Amber, because I'm a 12th houser as well. I don't have as many planets in the 12th house, but I don't want to use what Frankie, hates, but my chart ruler is in the 12th house. So I understand this generational curse kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah, you have your first house ruler in the 12th house, which definitely lends itself to that. You see? Um, there was something I was just about to say, and now I can't remember what it was. Um, Goodness gracious. My train of thought gets derailed like a chemical train going through Ohio. Is that where? Anyway, that's a bad, 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 bad thing to say. It's a bad thing to say. How
Listen, you can throw shade at the state above me. It doesn't matter. They know they're shitty. It's okay.
was that where it happened though? Was it? It was. What the fuck was it called? I can't remember the name of the city. Anyway, I don't want to piss anyone off because I can't remember the name of the city. And it was all over the place. It was all over the news, and then everyone forgot about it. Anyway, so I was talking about something, and then Amber totally derailed my train of thought. But that was a good point about the 12th house. Family. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Generational curses. Like I come from a family of addicts and all this sort of stuff too. But you see, there are no real generational curses, or at least I don't believe in them. I don't believe in things that can't be materially proven or materially experienced by moi. The way I describe generational curses are things that we learn through conditioning, through conditioned behavior, through watching people, authority figures, parents, family around us behaving in certain ways. And we learn that it's okay. And those behaviors get reinforced in different ways, right? Whether it's through good or bad attention. So, yes, break the generational curse. And it doesn't matter what I think about it. That's just how I understand it because I don't believe in things. I do not believe in things. And I've learned after 28 years, almost 30 years involved in the spiritual community since I was a child. Since I was a small child, 12 years old. What I've learned over all that time is that beliefs do not serve you on the path at all. Because when we believe in things, we're looking for things in particular. We're viewing things through a lens, and we have expectations that our beliefs create. So I distinguish between belief and faith because faith is different than belief. Belief is static, it's passive, it's crystallized, it takes no effort. But faith, St. Paul described faith as the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. He didn't describe it in terms of God or Jesus, although he does elsewhere, but he describes it in terms of the unfucking known, yo. The unknown. Isn't that wild? What does that mean to me? It means conviction in the unknown. It means we have passion for the unknown because we just want to find whatever is. To me, that's faith. That we're not satisfied with everything that the senses can show us. And we even know scientifically that we don't even see things as we are. And the senses don't show us any more than is biologically required to procreate, masticate, and defecate. Right? So it's up to us who have the capacity for a greater conscious experience to at least attempt to understand these things. And getting caught up in bullshit that we don't even know exists, to me, is a waste of time. It's reverie, it's fantasy, it's imagination. Could be great for writing fan fiction or making great paintings, but to understand existence, we have to be fucking here now. We have to feel our own existence, you see. That's why the only thing I ever preach is learning to fix your attention on the sensation of being you, because that's what matters. And it's really important practice for any of us Aquarius risings that have Pluto going into the first house, because we are going to be challenged on the very nature of how we understand ourselves. We're going to be smashed, deconstructed, pulled apart like a Barbie doll with a very destructive little girl, you know, and rearranged and put back together. But what really happens, as I said earlier, it's not like you're a different person. It's that the layers of what you're not get stripped away. And one of the few astrologers that I follow that I actually like, Adam Ellenboss, he said it best. And I honestly, I don't mind taking credit for what he says, because I think I said it before. Personally, I remember saying it, but I credit him with it because he said it in the video. But the chart is a map of what you're not. So what are you? Because the chart is a map of your conditioned existence. And in Buddhism, conditioned existence is ultimately empty because it's dependent. So anyway, but that's all sort of highfalutin stuff. What about me, right? Well, as I said, the Pluto experience is going to be a big thing, but 2035 to 2037 is going to be especially life-changing for you. So just look forward to it. You know, you should check out Zodiacal Releasing to see what else is going on around that time. You should check out your progressions if you can figure out what that is and see what's going around that time as far as your progressions. You see? If anyone wants to look at any particular stuff like that, just request it in the comments when you post your shit. And so Amber can take note of like what kind of things you want. But like you led me on a whole exposition on the 12th house. I'm sorry. So that's how this ended up. What are you about to say, Amber?
Oh, well, just going on, it's just like, I mean, even adding on to what you're saying, just more of the understanding. It's just like when you talk about like the deeper things of life, you kind of just make me wonder about my existence. But the most important thing is it's like we just know that we exist and that's it. And everything else is guesswork. And that's my opinion.
Well, and you're exactly right. And how do you know that's the case? I'll tell you, because I don't want to waste time. You know that's the case, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the only one experiencing your existence.
Yeah.
And you can't experience anyone else's existence, can you?
Nope.
So the only way you have to experience anything is through the filter or the lens of your own feeling of what being you. Is that not the case?
Being you and perceiving other people, absolutely. I
Yeah,
agree.
but you're always going to perceive other people in some way in a relationship to you, and not necessarily on their own accord, on their own, what Gurdjieff called external consider. I don't want to get into all this, but we see people through their relationship to us rather
What
than as they are, you know? And so
we can,
that's a big thing. And the reason why we do that is because we're so attached to this sense of identity, myself included. Like, obviously, I'm transgender. I wouldn't have, come out if I didn't feel attached to my sense of identity. But ultimately, identity is what? It's conditioned existence. It's based on past and memory and experiences, things that we've learned through interactions, behaviors, how we've related to parents, teachers, everybody, friends, peers, people we fucked, people we hate, people we love. All these experiences have gone into making us feel ourselves as we are. So our very sense of ourselves, of identity, of being, is a conditioned existence. But what is the being What is the being that's not conditioned? Or is there such a thing? So that's what this whole nonsense is about focusing your attention on the sensation of being you. And the only reason I'm mentioning this, Ember, is because, well, number one, you brought up the fact that the only thing we know for sure is that we are here. And that's a really interesting point you brought up. But also because our friend Amber, the other Amber, has Pluto in the first house now, as I do. And it's going to be a life-changing event where we're really challenged on our sense of identity and what identity means. Not just to us, but in general. A lot of us take identity as a fixed sort of thing, but nothing is fixed. That's one of the things that, Buddhism sort of teaches us, right? Well, not just Buddhism, observation of reality. Nothing stays the same. Everything is in flux, changing, moving, in motion. Science teaches us this, So we have to appreciate things as interdependent. And the fact of interdependent implies that ultimately everything is empty of inherent existence. And that's why I say the chart is ultimately a map of what you're not. And it's a way we can learn to understand our predicament in the world and understand that thing we call the self so we can work with it and learn about it, how it works. The other interesting thing about astrology is, Vedia's Valens said that we were given this science, right? It's not a science, but you know what he's saying, what he means. We were given this science by God, right? So that we could know our fate and not overly rejoice in the case of the good, like, oh yeah, and not be overly depressed in the case of the bad. So you see, it's a very stoic philosophy. It's about learning to accept whatever comes. And there's a certain amount in that I subscribe to, right? Radical acceptance of what is on the one hand. But like that old serenity prayer, right? You change the things that you can't accept, right? And you recognize the difference between the things you can and cannot change. And so there's a certain amount of intensity and effort that's required to make any progress. Because your chart isn't a death sentence. Like, yes, most of life is fated and you have no control over it. But the 1% that matters is your ability to make choices. And those moments when you can actively choose, when you are afforded a choice, that's when you get to test your mettle and your integrity. You get to demonstrate what you've learned and what you understand about your own being, because your actions are an expression of your sense of being, of your understanding of yourself. Your actions will be a direct expression of that, consciously or unconsciously, for good or for ill. So now it seems like Amber, I haven't looked at the chat in a while, but other Amber here probably has a sense of that through all this sort of thing. And she's got Venus conjunct Saturn, which is terribly difficult. It makes it hard to relate to people. On the one hand, she's probably very pretty and charming. On the other hand, she's socially awkward and probably has sought herself out in relationship. Oftentimes it lends itself to a terrible self-confidence. And we try and seek our value through other people, through external validation. And maybe she's overcome a certain amount of that, So, but her first house ruler is in domicile in the first house. So it does sort of say, hey, and in a day chart too. So it's almost like, yo, girl, we're giving you some shitty stuff, but we're also giving you the support to figure it out. So it's not insurmountable. You see, there's ultimately good stuff. Now, I don't know about your health situation, but I imagine that's difficult though too. You're also probably a pain in the fucking ass with Mars opposite Uranus. I have Mars opposite Uranus too. We don't listen to nobody. We don't take advice from anyone. If anyone tries to tell us to do a goddamn thing, back off. I don't care if you've been through this shit. I don't want to hear about it. Leave me the fuck alone. You know what I'm saying? We don't want any of our independence infringed, you know, which is sort of ironic. It's like, I think you think of that as like, don't tread on me, the rattlesnake flag and all that stupid stuff. But most of us really end up being sort of, more left-wing activist types, but in my experience that I see. So we're just terribly resistant, and we typically hate bullies, but we have to make sure that we don't, because we're so like reactive and we get so worked up so quickly. We have to be careful that we don't be bullies, or that we don't get, too forceful ourselves, thinking that we're in the right, because we often do. So there's that whole thing too. We should probably look at someone else's chart. Amber. I should look at the chat. I should look at the chat. I should. Yes, I would love donations. Anybody who wants to give donations, thank you. Amber says, I've never been in a relationship. I'm 31 years old. I don't trust men. Well, you got Chiron in the fucking 7th house, so yeah. And I mean, maybe it's been sort of a good thing in a way, but you need to experience yourself also. So, and that happens through interacting with people also, not just like living in our fucking heads. So, 3 things about me: I don't listen, I do what I want, and I don't give a flip. Sounds like a certain Saturn girl.
It really does.
With Uranus opposite her sun and Mars. So,
Okay, whenever you're ready for the next person, please let me know.
yeah, for sure. I'm just reading the
You
chat really
have
quick.
Megan's stuff already, Megan B.
I'm just looking at the chat really quick. Give me a second. Give me a second. The one thing I realized I absolutely love? I love being called a good girl. I had no clue how good that would feel until someone called me that. Oh my gosh, it was the most amazing thing. Yeah. And also being called some other filthy names, that was fun too. But then at the end, being called a good girl, yeah. Yes. Anyway, Megan, are you saying that we have Megan's stuff somewhere? Is that what you're trying to tell me, Amber?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong comment. Mandy G.
Mandy G.
But she wants a synastry reading. Can we do synastry readings?
Yeah. I do have Mandy G. Yes, I do have
Okay, Mandy, do you have the other person's birth time though? Because we're not going to be able to do synastry if you don't have his birth time.
I mean, I can. It's just like, ugh.
It's not going to be accurate.
I would just assume that he was born at 12 p.m. and I wouldn't be able to look at any aspects to the ascendant, which are really important.
Do you want to do Mandy's first until she comments again?
Yeah, I'll just look at Mandy. Mandy G.
Or not Mandy, Melissa, sorry.
Melissa.
Melissa.
Who the fuck is Melissa? I'm sorry, I just didn't see the chat. Oh,
You
there's
don't have
Melissa.
her stuff.
What's that?
You don't have her stuff. Oh, well, she didn't even put her birth time. Melissa, do you have a birth time we can use for you?
I need to
I
pay.
love you guys, but I will forever stress this in this order: date, time, city. Date, time, city. Date, time, city. If it cannot be in that order, then we cannot do a reading for you. We love you, but we need date, time, city.
Trying to find me on PayPal.
Love
Oh
your
my
favorite
goodness.
aggressive person.
It's PayPal
I put it
dot me.
I put it in the chat, honey.
What?
I put it in the chat already.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Well, I know it's there because people pay me all the time.
But you guys also can donate through YouTube as well.
Yeah. There's super chats. There's
The
super
chats
thanks.
are located in the corner when you're getting ready to type a message. It should be right over to the right, and it should just be a dollar sign symbol with a square around it.
I have elf ears. Look at that. That's fun.
Look at us and our little air rising teens.
But the other thing I'm doing too is I'm doing YouTube memberships. So for people who become members of the channel, I'm going to be doing monthly horoscopes, like extended ones for each rising sign. And then
Well,
for
there's
another
another
tier,
person named Lovey if you want to do them.
why are you interrupting me?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to get the natal chart stuff. That's my kind of job here, you know.
But I was talking.
Yeah, you know. I
Anyway,
always
that
interrupt you.
then there's another tier of membership where I do personalized readings based on or personalized horoscopes based on your actual full natal chart. Anyway, so you're talking about someone, Amber. What is up, sweetheart?
Okay, let me find their comment again. I'm trying to find it before it disappears because YouTube has this horrible thing that it does to me, and it makes the comments disappear for some odd
I
reason. I don't
told
really.
you. I told you. That's why
Okay.
I need you to write that shit down.
Okay. So Lovey is two.
Melissa's from Bakersfield. Did you see that? That's where my ex-wife is from.
Liz is from Bakersfield. Okay, thank you, Melissa. We'll get to you next.
We used to drive from San Diego to Bakersfield all the goddamn time, and it was a nightmare. It was always
Okay.
a nightmare. Bakersfield is like if you took Oklahoma and shoved it into California, you see. And really, a lot of it was settled during the Dust Bowl period, right? Of the, what was that, the early 1900s? I think it was the early 1900s. There was a terrible famine throughout the American, you know, um, I want to say Southwest, but it was throughout, you know, Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas and Nebraska. And people were forced, you know, out, and a lot of them moved to Bakersfield and Kern County, you see. Like if you ever read John Steinbeck, The Grapes of Wrath or East of Eden, they all take place, you know, around Bakersfield. Well, you know, Central Coast and stuff like that, in Central Valley, you see. But they're wonderful books by John Steinbeck because they show the plight of the laboring classes quite often. He was, you know, very much a progressive type. Anyway, so thank you for donating, Tina. We gotta do the donations first. Wait, who are we doing right now? Melissa, right? Melissa from Bakersfield. And
Melissa,
we were in the midst of doing
do
Melissa
you
Note.
want to do the donation reading first, though? I feel like we should.
Yeah, and we'll get to Melissa in just a second. You're right. I'm sorry, Melissa. We'll get to you really quickly.
Okay, so Taina's birthday is 12/30/1984,
Uh-huh. And then we got,
10:30 p.m.,
thank you.
Bonao, Dominican Republic. So Bonao, comma, Dominican Republic. The real name's Natalie, she said. So her real name's Natalie.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And then make sure we keep Melissa in the queue because I want to get to my Bakersfield bitch. You know what I mean?
No, Melissa's in queue.
Okay. We'll get to you, Melissa. Don't worry. Don't worry, sweetheart. Just don't go anywhere, or else I'll be very upset. I'll be very, very upset if you go anywhere. I'll feel very, very neglected. Okay. So this page, Virgo rising. So number one, the first thing I notice is that the eclipses are going between your second and eighth house. Your money and finances are going to be the biggest thing here coming up over the next year. So you're going to have this eclipse in your eighth house. And it's going to be, is it going to be conjunct? Amber, what degree is the eclipse? Do you know in April? I can't remember.
I have it written down somewhere. Give me one.
I'll probably get to it before you.
If I'm not wrong, it's 20 degrees. You said the lunar eclipse
Yeah.
next
Well, no,
month
no,
is
the
going to be
solar eclipse. I'm sorry, April 8th.
April
April
8th.
8th. It's
Oh,
going
I
to
haven't even
be,
gone into April, babes.
it is 20 degrees. It's 19 degrees, rather. It's 19 degrees. So it's going to be almost exactly conjunct their fucking moon, you see? So this is a big, big, big deal for you, this eclipse, April 8th. Now, it could, worst case scenario, represent a loss. You see, typically those are financial losses and not necessarily like the big loss, right? But it could also be very good in other ways because it could represent the gift of something or getting external support. Or again, the eighth house is other people's resources, other people's money, debt, repayment, finance, all these sorts of things. Now, during this time too, we start getting crystallized. This is the part of the eclipse cycle that is the very end, right? So it's when we notice that we've made all these sorts of things and we're on the precipice next of an existential crisis, which you're going to see around the lunar eclipse coming up in September. It's going to have probably more to do with the relationship that either comes to a close or there's something that gets resolved from a past relationship, maybe that caused you a bit of pain, right? There's some loose end or something left hanging that sort of gets finality or resolved around September when that lunar eclipse happens. But then the October solar eclipse is about you and your shit, the stuff that you build up, whether it's your career or business or some sort of financial luck, you see? Now, eclipses can bring the best and the worst, right? They can bring great things and really horrible things. So you got to be sort of prepared for whatever. But you see, this April eclipse is especially potent because it's conjunct your moon. And these are brand new beginnings typically, you know. And beginnings can be quite violent. They're not always, right? Like, oh, it's the beginning. Like, the beginning, right? So this is quite interesting. And when you have an eighth house moon anyway, you're already accustomed to trauma. So you may see this reveal and bring up a lot of things that you never dealt with before. And the eighth house is also what? Well, to me, in my practice, I treat it as forgiveness. And why is that? Because it's about debt. And what is forgiveness but squaring an emotional debt? You see? And forgiveness isn't necessarily about other people. In fact, it never really is. It's about you. It's about releasing yourself or other people from owing you or from being owed. So I think this could have a lot to do with that. You know? And with your eighth house moon, I think you've probably had some trauma you've carried around with you. You see? And probably from your mother. I bet mom was sort of a reactive person. I bet she was a reactive person. A reactive person. You got Saturn going through your seventh house right now, too. It often strains relationships. It isolates us because all of a sudden we've sort of garnered a certain amount of independence. Like, we've come out of a condition of having to struggle and feeling like we're on our own and having to like take responsibility for everything. That's the sixth house experience. And then Saturn goes into the seventh house, and it's like, our partners or people around us are like, well, what the fuck is wrong with her? She doesn't pay attention to me anymore, or whatever. And that sense of independence often strains our relationships. There's other ways it can manifest, but that's the common narrative that I see. So, and most of my clients are either married or in some sort of relationship. Some aren't, but what I find is most women, and 90% of my clients are women, are in some sort of situationship or relationship or something. There's some sort of attachment somewhere, or an ex-husband is still living with them, or whatever, right? Circumstances get wacky these days. But Saturn going through the seventh house pulls us apart. And if we are married or with someone or whatever, the big test and task here is about falling in love again or recommitting. When I had Saturn going through my seventh house, I think that's when I moved in with my ex-wife, and like all of a sudden we had this big commitment and everything, So there can be that too, you see. I should look at the comments and see what people are saying. I do feel lonely in a relationship right now. I feel like I'm doing too much. Yeah. Your mom's a narcissist. Yeah, so is mine. That's par for the course, I feel. Yeah. Eighth house is forgiveness, Melissa. Yeah. Yes, it sure is. And we'll get to you in just a second. But you see, this is really a potent time for you with this eclipse. That nodes are starting to move into Virgo and Pisces bit by bit. And you see, that's going to represent the birth of a new cycle here as we get into 2025. This is you starting over again, Natalie. And you'll probably have a crisis, in a relationship during 2025. That leads you into an existential crisis with the first house, you see. Are we actually going to have a solar eclipse in Virgo, Amber?
Yes, we are actually. No, not in Virgo, but in Libra we are.
Are we ever going to have eclipse? I should know this off the top of my head.
I know I should too.
Eclipse is 2025. Is there a solar eclipse that happens in Virgo? Is there a solar eclipse that happens?
This year, there in March, there's a lunar eclipse that happens in Libra, but
See, these are all still in Libra. September the 21st, but that's like just barely in Libra. What about 2026? 2026. I'm getting hungry. Goodness gracious. And we got to get to Melissa, and we got to get to Lovey, because Lovey donated too. I just want to see if there's a fucking...
I know I'm also very hungry.
You're very hungry too. I don't see a solar eclipse in Virgo. Anyway, but regardless, it's still a very transformative time because you're going to have an experience with a relationship that challenges your sense of yourself, probably in 2025 going into 2026. And it's coinciding with Saturn at the very last degrees, the final 10 degrees of Pisces, which is where we start to see light at the end of the tunnel. So I imagine you're probably going to meet someone if you're not already in a relationship. If you are, you might find yourself either breaking it off or renewing the commitment and getting more Because we have to fall in love with each other over and over again. We're changing as people constantly, aren't we? Like we keep having to get to know each other again. And if we aren't changing as people, then we're incredibly fucking boring. And we're not making any progress, are we? We're not developing as people. I mean, if your partner doesn't say to you at some point, I don't even know you anymore, then, I mean, are you even alive? So you see, these things are quite important. Oh my goodness, your Venus is exactly trine my North Node. Stay away from me, Natalie. Stay away. Stay away from me. It would be dangerous. Your moon is exactly opposite my moon, too. I'm a Libra moon. That's some sparks. Sparks. Oh, excuse me. But anyway, that's the eclipses and that's Saturn. You're having it. See, we've had 3 Aqua Venuses in a row. That's fucking wild, dude. I've dated 4 Aqua Venuses. I mean, I've been with a good amount of people. So, I'm not saying I'm a slut, but I've toured the zodiac more times than Venus. Boom. I thought that was good. Was that good, Amber?
I mean, I've already laughed at this joke, so you already know this is a very biased opinion, but yes, it's fucking hilarious.
I know. I
Whether
told you.
it's you or me, whether it's you or me trying to split out people, it has to be one of the two of us, but that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the last thing I want to say really quick about Natalie is that with her North Node in the 9th house, you know, she's at a point in her life now where, she really is getting deep into things, whether it's spirituality, philosophy, maybe she's getting into politics or law, right? Or more interested in foreign cultures, foreign religions, foreign languages. But she's asking the bigger questions now at this phase in her life. And she's going to find herself as she gets older more and more consumed with these sorts of bigger subjects. So it's pretty cool. It's a lot to look forward to, you see. So we should get to Melissa and then Lovey. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
So let's do Lovey first since she donated.
I know,
Let
but
me
we just
find her stuff.
yeah, but we pushed Melissa off the last one. So we're gonna get through Melissa quick and we're gonna get to Lovey.
Okay, let me find her real quick. So her,
Wait, hold on. I had
she put,
Melissa. I had Melissa.
you do? Okay, good.
Where the fuck did she go?
She should be still in the chat.
No, I mean, I thought I had her shit all in here. Oh, I started typing it. I didn't.
Okay. Do you need it?
Hold on. I think I'm gonna find it. Wait. I don't know. Do you see it?
It- Yeah, I have it in front of my face if you need it.
Oh yeah, thank you.
So her birthday is 02/17/1979, Bakersfield, California,
What time?
9:09 p.m.
Thank you. That was when my daughter was born, 9:09 p.m.
That's so weird, right?
What?
That's so weird, right?
Yeah, so she was born like June 9th at 9:09. Like there's just all these nines involved with her birth. That's really interesting. And 9 in numerology is like the number of initiation, you know. So anyway, let's look at this shit. Where you at, yo? Where you at, yo?
Okay, I just clicked back on. I just clicked
Wait, hold
onto the
on. I didn't
info.
mean to do that. What am I trying to do here? There we go.
Look at her chart.
Oh, she's a Libra rising like you. Pluto
Yeah.
conjunct ascendant. It's a wide orb, but still quite interesting. My daughter's got Pluto rising too. We say rising because you see, Pluto was starting to rise up over the eastern horizon as you were born, because your ascendant is the horizon. So you see, I have Pluto square the ascendant. It's a little bit more difficult than what you have. But you see, when we have Pluto in hard aspect to the ascendant, whether it's a conjunction, square, or opposition, yeah, we don't live life the normal way. We get shattered, right? We learn through painful experiences, and we often have painful, dramatic lives. And we're often quite dramatic people. And we can't have normal relationships with people. We have to get all kooky and crazy, like it's the fucking Addams family. You know, we get all intense and creepy and crazy quick. We want to bleed with someone. And you're a Scorpio moon. There you go. You're a pain in the goddamn ass. Oh, and your Venus is exactly opposite mine. Oh my goodness. You and I would get along wonderful, Melissa. We sure would. Melissa. Anyway, but Pluto conjunct the ascendant like that forces us into crises, you see? And we learn about ourselves through crises, unfortunately, but it's also par for the course, you know? So, Pluto's part of the expression, right? It can give sort of a gothy, dark demeanor or a morbid fascination with death and dying and dead things. It also gives us a fascination with power, right? Oftentimes, when we have Pluto in hard aspect to the ascendant, we feel powerless as children, right? We feel like everyone's in control of us, that we're just a victim of circumstances. So as we get older, we get very attracted to kink, you know, things like dominance and submission. I know I sure did. Oftentimes because we want to express that sense of power, and oftentimes also because we've developed an attachment and an affinity for the sense of powerlessness, right? There's a sense of liberation that sometimes comes from the sense of being able to let go. Yeah. And that's ultimately what the spiritual or religious experience is. It's letting go, right, of the personal nature and allowing oneself to be submissive or submit to whatever the divine nature is. It's like, you know, taking the spirit dick. You know what I'm saying? Even though I don't really believe in spiritual things. But it's a psychological thing too. The sense of the dissolution of self. What's interesting about death too is, you know, the French referred to the orgasm, or some French philosopher referred to orgasm as le petit mort, right? The little death. And there's a connection, right, between sex and death or orgasm, because at the point of orgasm, it's almost like a fully letting go, right? Just allowance, right? I think of Pluto in sort of association with that sort of thing, especially conjunct the ascendant, because unfortunately we learn through trauma, and you're a Scorpio moon. So mama trauma for you. And you have Saturn, or sorry, not Saturn, Mars relatively close to your sun. Mars is combust and it makes you quite aggressive, you know, or it can make you quite reactive. Getting a bit of a pain in the ass, and it's in your fifth house. Like me, I've, you know, Mars conjunct the sun in the fifth house too. And I'm a slut. I'm very, very sexual. I'm hypersexual, in fact. You know, it's part of my expression. And I always wanted to be a parent also too. Like I always knew I was going to have a child at least. You know, and I love being a parent. But we also have high expectations of our children when Mars is in the fifth house. You know, it's like hey, that's a nice B, but it sure ain't no fucking A, is it? Like, we need to work harder next time. Come on. I mean, you were born in 1979, Melissa, so you remember the Breakfast Club, right? Like, come on, Andrew, you gotta win. Your intensity's for shit, right? We're very competitive when it comes to our kids. We want our kids to be the best, don't we? But we're also big fucking sluts. Like, you know, we're very sexual people. And sometimes we're very childlike, but the childlike thing oftentimes comes along with the sense of loss of innocence and trauma. Like, you know, who else had a fifth house son like this was J.R.R. Tolkien, right? And he lived through World War I, one of the most disgusting conflicts humanity's ever faced. I mean, can you picture, you know, all your homeboys' internal stuff spilled out over the mud and everyone's like drowning in mud? It was just unspeakable horror, you know. But he wrote these children's stories, you know, that seem to be allegories for that, even though he claims they're not. They sure seem to be allegories for it, though. You know, and he wrote these children's stories about profound losses of innocence, but also encompassing a lot of that innocence. So I think you can relate to that, you see? And you capping mommy, you, oh my gosh, I would have so much fun with you. You see, your Pluto's conjunct my moon, like exactly. We would get all fucking crazy. Like we would just, you'd be like, don't go. No. You know, Pluto moon thing. It's just, and it's hot too. You know, Pluto moon, it's, and Venus opposite Venus. You know, I mean, anyway, now I'm just like selling myself in a way. But when Saturn is conjunct the North Node in the 12th house like that, isolation. We learn from being alone, and we have an intense sort of almost desire and need to be alone, even though at the same time it's painful. Sometimes we actually go to prison. Like it could be physically going to prison, or it could be physically living outside of society, right? Physically living in the boonies or the sticks or off the grid, or, you know, whatever, stuff like that. But bit by bit, with the North Node there, life is taking you away from that too. Life is taking you probably more and more into the quieter side. And maybe you found relief from emotional trauma because you obviously have it, you know. But isolation sometimes can be a healing thing, as I've said in the past. And the Saturn 12th house experience isn't all bad. I mean, again, mental illness, addiction, all that sort of thing, imprisonment. But we also see people who live a monastic life. We see people who enter into convents, covenants, you know, a spiritual commitment, something that removes them from the rickety-rackety of Western typical life, you see. It's very important to notice. Meanwhile, Saturn is in your 6th house right now and opposing your natal Saturn. So this is a definitely trying time, you see. You're being taught a number of things. Number one, you're being taught to let go, unfortunately. You're being taught to take responsibility also. You know, you're learning through hard work and putting effort into things, how to clean up the messes you made. It's almost like Alanis Morissette. And I'm here to remind you of the mess I left when I avoided it. It's not fair. I have to clean it. I'd rather not. You ought to know, right? But we get forced to do all these things because life previously was very uncertain. So now we're sort of, and it's uncertain when Saturn goes through the 5th house, you see. And then all of a sudden we have to start taking responsibility for things and picking our things up. Clean up, everybody, everywhere, right? Like Barney.
Hey, Frankie.
What's up?
You ready to move on to the next chart?
I am. And let me say this really quick, that the eclipses are about to be on the 7th and 1st house axis. And you're going to go through the rest of this year through a big existential fucking crisis, and you'll probably break up with a partner or meet a new person. So have a wonderful time. Next person. Wait,
Whitney, do you have Whitney stuff
do I
that
have?
she sent to you on Messenger?
Oh, yeah. And we'll get to you all. Like, we'll get to you all. Whitney Williams. Oh, she wants Sinistry. Okay. Wait, I can't. I need your birth info, darling. I don't see birth info in here anymore.
Well, I have Lovey's if you want to do
She
that.
unsent a message. I'm sorry, Whitney. I can't do your charts without your birth information. I can't. No, I'm sorry, Whitney. I can't do it without your information because I need to put it in here. So no, I'm sorry.
Do you want to do Lovey's then, since she is a donation?
We'll do Levy. Yeah, if Whitney can send me her actual birth information and her partner's birth information, that would be wonderful because I can't, like, she unsent, or she cropped it so that I can't see the birth information, so I can't put it in anything. So yeah, we'll do Levy.
Her name's Taikisha.
Okay. I don't know how to spell that, so I'll just put Levy. What's
It's
the birthday?
TY.
Just tell me
Okay.
the fucking birthday.
2/22/1986, Davenport, Iowa.
Time.
I'm sorry, 1:59 p.m. Davenport, Iowa.
Davenport. Ayahuasca. Oh my God. Davenport. I know it exists because I've seen it. There we go. Okay. Share my screen. Where is Zoom? Share my screen. Okay, cool. We have another Cancer rising with Pisces everything. Pisces, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Jupiter, all in the 9th house. You have your head in the clouds, my darling. You're living in fairyland. I mean, you're probably a spiritual person, and you're probably born a spiritual person. You probably always felt this sense of mystery and wonder about things. You know, you may have been involved in religion as a kid, but it wouldn't have been a terrible experience, most likely. You know, I imagine with an exalted Venus and Sun and Jupiter and domicile and all this stuff, that it was a good experience of spirituality. You know, you're one of the kids that asks big questions. And maybe you had a mentor or someone that facilitated that sort of thing, because Jupiter's in the 9th house. Oftentimes we meet a mentor when we're young, before a Saturn return, that sets us upon these ways. I have Saturn in the 9th house, which is much different. I also had mentors, but I eventually become in opposition to my mentor. And I eventually learned to not believe in the things that I once believed. But for you, it's a way better experience of all these sorts of things, typically. I mean, the way I've seen this expressed and the way it looks like it expresses from the chart. So a very spiritual, mystical type of person, you see, on the one hand. But there's also, I mean, I bet that life has just been difficult for you in general, you know. Like, see, you have Mars conjunct Saturn. So it's just like everything is fucking difficult. Why are you texting me, girl? Oh, wait, this is Whitney. Okay. She's messaging me her dates for the next thing. Because I can't do it without date, time, city, date, time, city. And I can't just look at your chart like in the message. I can't do. Not gonna have the power. You see? So anyway, this lends itself to a mystical type person, but this Mars Saturn thing is quite difficult because it feels like life fights us every which way. Nothing comes easy. It's like a sense of having to struggle for everything, whether it's like, having to put on armor to go to the grocery store. Pardon me. You see? It's not a fun experience. And being in the 6th house, on the one hand, I bet you have a great sense of responsibility and work ethic. On the other hand, I bet you have a terrible time trying to have fun. Like you probably feel committed and obligated to everyone. And with all the Pisces stuff, it's like, very self-sacrificing, but in a very selfish way. You probably get resentful about how much you do for everyone else. I do so much for everyone and they don't appreciate it. Oh my God. People just don't like me. Whatever. Whatever copium you use. But with the Pisces, you're probably heavily intoxicated on copium. I think of Pisces sort of like a mop, right? It's like they suck up all the emotions and moods and the dirty water around them. Because they're naturally empathetic. So they're naturally empathetic. But it's unconscious, you see. So the difference between Pisces and a mop is that you can wring out a mop. Well, you can wring out a Pisces too, but the only way to wring out a Pisces is through alone time. Like being by yourself for an hour each day to disentangle all your stuff from the world's stuff and other people's stuff. Because that's you carry things home with you and you can't avoid it. You're very sensitive. Naturally, doesn't mean you're a good person necessarily, just means you're very sensitive. So, and you have Mars square Venus. So there's a struggle between, your aggression and the way you relate to people. So you might find yourself like, at odds with people quite a bit, or getting yourself in these uncomfortable social circumstances because you don't have a lot of self-regulation, which is, yes, you do. You're probably very inhibited and all this sort of thing, but you have a temper. Sort of what I'm getting at. You have a temper. But anyway, it's just a difficult place to have things. And then you have Saturn going through your 9th house now, which is very uncomfortable for you probably, because this is like the crux of your chart. You got 4 fucking planets here, all traditional planets, and they're focused in this 9th house. Now, your 1st house ruler is in the 2nd, right? And in Leo. So, your sense of individuality, whatever. Yes, of course. Your sense of material security. Yeah, of course. But nothing is ever going to feel secure without this sense of meaning, right? You've probably been on a quest for meaning since you were a child. And so now that Saturn's entering in, this throws a whole fucking, rock in your, or stick in your spokes, or whatever the phrase is. It knocks you off kilter. It pulls the rug out from under you because it deconstructs what you thought you believed, whether it's political, religious, spiritual, philosophical, whatever it is. But your ideologies are finally, they're being taken away from you. And it's terribly uncomfortable, isn't it? But it's a necessary thing because our beliefs get crystallized into all these sorts of assumptions. And like Siddhartha said, right? You should all read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Very enlightening book. Yeah, it's written by a white guy about the East, but it's really good. But Siddhartha says, when we're looking for something in particular, all we find is that thing because we're looking through our lens of expectation. You see? And what Saturn going through the 9th house teaches us bit by bit is that what we thought our expectations were totally wrong. How we thought we viewed the world and what we thought it meant was wrong, or maybe even naive, or even mean-spirited. Right? When Saturn went through my 9th house, I was raised in a very conservative family with a military family. My dad was a colonel in the United States Army and a Vietnam veteran. My grandfather was a World War II pilot. My other grandfather was a World War II veteran. You see? So there was a lot of, conservative stoic values and all that. When Saturn went through my 9th house, I was ripped away from all that sort of thing bit by bit because, number one, I had a heart. And number two, I had a brain. And I knew something about history and I knew how economics worked and I was learning about all that sort of thing. But I had to learn about all that. And it was very uncomfortable because I did slowly get ripped away from these other thought patterns. And a lot of it happened through my spiritual beliefs at the time. You see? So anyway, it's a very fertile time of life for you. And the eclipses are going between your 4th and 10th house, which is amazing because you see, this is the time of manifestation. Right? You probably will, April 8th, between April and October, I bet you either change jobs, start a new career, get a promotion, change life direction. This is all new beginnings, you see. And in your 10th house, the angular houses here during the eclipse cycle are of major, major importance. Major importance. When I went through this, I quit a job of 20 years and I moved out of state. I lived in the same city more or less my whole life. And then suddenly at the age of 38, I moved from California to Colorado. And believe me, I love it here, but it was a shock at first, It was a big shock at first. And I quit a job of 20 years to do this bullshit. You see? So I imagine you're either going to quit or find a new job between April and October. And between October and spring of 2025, you may make a big move. You may find yourself having to buy a house or finding a new apartment or whatever, or making, again, maybe it's not as big as mine, or maybe it's bigger. But this is big beginnings and endings when it comes to our lives. And this eclipse cycle has a duration of 18.6 years. So each one of these stages is pivotal in some way in our lives. And we get an indication of the quality of it, or the emphasis of it, rather, by what houses are involved in the oscillation of these eclipses. So this is a very important, fruitful time in your life, sweetheart. Relish it, enjoy it. It'll be painful too. But we learn to relish the pain to a certain extent because oftentimes it yields rewards. There was a mantra in one of the old spiritual things I was involved with. It was, let pain bring due reward, right? Let pain bring due reward of love and understanding. Love and compassion come from an experience of suffering and an awareness, because suffering can turn us bitter, but an awareness too that we're all in the same boat, and our interconnectedness and our influence upon other people and the reciprocal influence we receive. people ask how I define love in sort of my own metaphysical sense, and it's the progressive realization of one's interdependence with other beings. That's how I would summarize love. It's an awareness that you're playing a part in the existence of all of life, and all of life is existing within you. But it's a progressive realization. It unfolds, you see. It's not like a light switch. Although, I don't know, maybe someone will disagree with me. There are light switch moments, but they happen in sequence progressively in my experience. So I don't know. I don't know what your experience is. We should get to who was the next person? Whitney.
Yes, Whitney's next. And then Sylvie because she donated.
How are you here still?
No, it's fine. I just had to take 5 minutes away, but I'm listening. I've been listening the entire time.
And then we have to go after. That's got to be the last one. Who?
Yep.
So we're gonna do Whitney and who else?
Sylvie, if you have her chart.
It really doesn't help to send me your information because I'll probably say it out loud by accident.
Yeah.
Because I say everything I do out loud. Like I'm trying not to say it, but I'm repeating it in my head. So I'm making this quick with Whitney because I gotta fucking go to bed or get ready for. I gotta eat food. I gotta eat food.
I also have to eat food.
Well, I've been trying to learn to photosynthesize, but it's not working.
What are you eating for dinner tonight?
ATP. I'm photosynthesizing.
Okay. Chicken tikka masala.
No, I was
No.
talking about adenine triphosphate. It's a joke. I'm photosynthesizing, is what I'm saying.
I know. I'm laughing.
See,
My little teacher.
I'm eating cellular respiration. The fuck, yo. See, I'm about to say that shit out loud because I need to say things out loud to myself. If you don't want your shit
Okay,
on here, don't fucking.
real quick, I don't mean to cut you off, but Sylvie put her birth chart info in the comment section if you need it.
She put her what?
She put her birth chart info in the
Okay, I
comment
can't see it.
section
Can you
if
write
you
it
need it.
down or something, please?
Yeah, I'll
Like, it
say it out
doesn't
loud
help to
whenever you're
interrupt
ready.
me. Getting hangry. Okay. Oh, animate. Oh, wait, share screen. Okay. Whitney's a Sag rising. Her seventh house ruler is Mercury. Mercury is in the ninth house. So she needs deep kind of people, or maybe she's attracted to foreign people, people from other countries or cultures or religions, right? Or she's attracted to spiritual people, quite likely. She's got the sun in the ninth house too. So she herself is attracted to that. But I imagine with Mars in the ninth house, she had a difficult experience of religion as a kid or conflict with her home religion as a kid. So she probably is very attracted to foreign religions or, like Eastern religions or other cultures or whatever. That sort of bit, Chiron in the seventh house and Venus in the seventh house. That lends itself to codependence, doesn't it? Right? And then Saturn conjunct the moon in Scorpio in the 12th house. So, that's a very difficult place to have some shit, isn't it? So I think of like bipolar disorder. I think of, mental illness, mental health issues, like difficult ones. You know, and please, I'm not a doctor. I'm no one of authority except for when it comes to astrology, but I do see things like BPD, personality disorders, all that sort of stuff, right? With Saturn conjunct the moon in the 12th house. And the moon also very unhappy in Scorpio. So, you have your own relationship baggage and stuff that you bring with you, and mommy issues, probably terrible mommy issues. Maybe it's daddy issues, but I expect it to be mommy issues. So anyway, dad may have been very intelligent or cold or not around. I don't know. But let's look at partner. God damn it. What do I do here? I need someone to do this stuff for me. I need someone to do this for me. Partners of Capricorn rising, moon conjunct Neptune in the 12th house once again. Like attracts like. Maybe both of you have had to deal with addiction issues and or mental health issues. Got to be careful here because both have a tendency to want to escape. We have a Pisces sun. We've got another Aquarius Venus. It's been Aquarius fucking Venus night. Good thing I love Aquarius Venus. There's Saturn and Mars are in the 6th house, right? They may have health issues or just this sense of monotony. Again, they have mommy issues with Mars opposite the moon. Their mommy was probably really reactive, probably a bit abusive or very mean, right? And they have Pluto trine Mars here, so they have power stuff too. Like they've got power issues. They like to be in control. I just hit my microphone. They might feel very important or whatever about themselves, but underlying, this person has a tendency to want to escape and avoid reality and just does not feel very confident deep down. Not very confident deep down. I don't know. Maybe self-indulgent too with Jupiter. So we'll look at the synastry grid. The synastry grid. The synastry grid. We'll look at the synastry grid. The synastry grid. The synastry grid. And we got Whitney and Whitney partner. And we're going to share my screen. Share my screen. So here's the synastry grid. I look for the bad stuff first. I'm looking for Saturn, Pluto, Mars. Let's see, Saturn opposition the ascendant. Mars opposition ascendant. This is a very close orb. This is very wide. Anything else remarkably not good? Mars opposite Uranus could be a little difficult. Difficult. Sorry, I got a text from somebody.
Whitney asked, would the houses change based on whole versus Placidus? Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look. Yeah, probably. I mean, the ascendant degree is 25 Sagittarius. So Placidus would start your first house here. I just don't do that shit. It would start your first house here and put Neptune in your first house. Yeah. Wait, do you have a specific question, Whitney, about that? It might change some things. Yeah, I just think it's better than
That
Placidus.
was her question.
Okay. So, but yeah, it would change some things. It would change some things. But for the techniques I use, I mean, wait, cancel. But for the techniques I use, whole sign houses is the thing. Whole sign houses. What were we doing? The synastry grid. I gotta pull all that shit up again. You see? You see. There we go. Share my screen. Share my screen. The big things though that I noticed, like number one, where did that go? Where was that opposition? Was I tripping?
You said Mars opposite Uranus.
Well, that's one of them. That's 5 degrees. I mean, that's not too bad. I mean, that is difficult because oftentimes the Uranus person sort of feels unstable to the Mars person. And the Mars person gets more and more aggressive. You know, the Mars person wants commitment oftentimes. So, but on the other hand, your Saturn is trying their sun, which is very good for commitment. And it's a very close orb. Oftentimes it represents reliability. And the Saturn person makes the Sun person feel secure. You know, so that's a good thing in many ways. Oh, Saturn opposite the ascendant here. So that's a bit difficult because that means Saturn is on the descendant, right? So that makes it very hard for us to get together in the first place. Maybe things like intervene, right, to keep us apart. Maybe it takes a long time for us to get together. But ultimately, if and when we do get together, it's very difficult to get apart. And I mean like not fun, difficult to get apart, right? Like we get to a point where we want to break up and we can't because of circumstance, because of money or children or something that gets in the way, and we feel trapped. So that's one thing to just be aware of. So your Venus square their Sun, we oftentimes feel a different aesthetic, right? The Sun may even get jealous because everyone thinks Venus is really pretty. Okay? And their Pluto is sextile your Sun, so there's a Pluto thing going on. Your Pluto is trine their Mercury. I don't really care about Pluto trine Jupiter or Saturn too much in synastry. But there is Plutonian attachment both ways. It's not Venus or Mars or the Moon, which are the most significant to me, but still, you know, this Sun thing is pretty indicative of maybe this person being more paranoid to lose you, right? Or feeling especially attached to you. Maybe it feels like they try and suffocate you in some ways. I don't know. But it's a sextile. I mean, it's a better aspect. It's not terrible. There's also a very pleasant intensity, right? Like we feel like we've always known each other, or we feel like we're just like, we share all our trauma together. We info dump or trauma dump on each other. That's a very common thing that happens. A very common thing that happens. I mean, Mars trying Jupiter being each other's cheerleaders, like cheering each other on, encouraging each other, pumping each other up, giving each other confidence. Like Jupiter's usually the one cheering Mars on, sort of, so to speak. But, you know, Mars fills Jupiter with a sense of pride and wisdom and all that sort of bit. You know, feeling very important kind of thing. Feeling like a teacher or a mentor, because that's what Jupiter is. So feeling like a guide sometimes. And then Jupiter conjunct Venus is very good. It's a very important aspect to have in synastry. You know? It's a sense of one's, you know, life philosophy, their worldview and all this sort of thing, you know, in harmony or I hate this term, but resonance, right? With someone's, the way they relate to people. You see? So the way someone loves and needs to be loved, it's sort of like a sapiosexual, demisexual type thing. Like, let me fall in love with your wisdom and your depth first. Sharing worldviews, sharing value, sharing philosophical affinities. These things are sort of in that direction. But then on the other hand, we have Venus square the sun, which is another close orb here under 2 degrees. And this is our aesthetics being at odds with each other. Like, why the fuck are you wearing that? Oh, that's so dorky. That's so gross. Or you like cartoons? Those are so stupid. I don't like those, you know? Or like, how come you like old movies? Like, I think that's lame. We have different tastes and aesthetics. Like, who the fuck would pick that rug? It's ugly. You know, what's that eyeshadow you're wearing? You look like a drag queen.
You and your shadiness.
It's just different aesthetic. So that's one of the things we have to deal with. Now, this is a very wide orb, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Venus square the moon. You know, the moon feels like jealous sometimes. The moon loves Venus and is attracted to Venus, but can't relax in Venus's company. It's hard to relax in the other person's company, probably because you feel like, oh, they're going to meet someone better than you, or they're attracted to other people, or you know, that kind of bullshit. It makes us naturally sort of uncomfortable and insecure. And we do stupid things out of insecurity. So we have to learn that we have to get our security from ourselves. And until someone crosses our boundaries, you know, if someone crosses our boundaries, we have to hold to them. If we tell Venus, yo, I'm monogamous or whatever, and you're like, please don't do X, Y, Z, and they do that, then you say, well, gosh, like that was a boundary of mine and I gotta go. You know, like you can't put yourself through situations that are intolerable for you. Anyway, did we have anyone else, Amber?
Sylvia.
That's right. Let's go to Sylvia. It's 7:30. I've gone 2.5 hours. Like, shit. I usually stop at 7.
I know this will be our last one.
Where's Sylvia?
I already have her stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm ready.
So her birthday is April 29th, 1991, 1:48 p.m. in Leamington, Ontario, Canada.
April 29th, 1991, correct?
Yes.
At what time? Oh shit, stop
1:48
share. What the
p.m.
fuck, yo? Ugh. Sorry, what time?
1:48 p.m.
Okay.
Leamington, Ontario, Canada.
Leamington, Canada?
Mm-hmm.
How do you spell Leamington, or how do you spell that place?
Leamington.
Okay.
Ington.
Perfect. Okay, I didn't get that A. Leamington, is it Ontario?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sylvia, for telling us it was Ontario. That's very important. Ontario. Ontario, Canada, not California. There's an Ontario, California, too. So Leo rising. Wonderful. So Pluto's entered your 7th house. So this is fun. It's very angular for you. So, I mean, this is a 20-year-long transit. You're not going to see a whole lot of crazy stuff until it crosses your ascendant, which it sounds like is not going to be till 2025 through 2027, because it's around the same degree as that other person. But you've gone from Saturn in your 7th house to Saturn in your 8th. So you've had relationships strained, perhaps. And either you've made a commitment or you've probably broken things off. Going into 8th house, if you've made a commitment, this is where we start sharing our money and our resources with people. Oftentimes, that's what happened to me. My ex-wife and I, when Saturn was going through my 8th house, my ex-wife and I started a joint bank account and all these sort of things. Shared resources, you see. But then there's also losses and other things that happen around this, right? Big expenses and expenditure. So be aware of all that. Because the Saturn tours our 8th house, we get tested on how we deal with loss. Most of the times it's material loss. It's not always like we lose a person. But it can be that sort of thing because the 8th house is death, you see? But as I said before, it's not just like physical death and all that sort of stuff. It can be, psychological death and release and trauma, processing trauma and forgiveness, which is part of the whole processing process. So you see, I just think that's an interesting thing to be aware of. But meanwhile, Jupiter's going through your 8th house, and it's getting pretty close to your midheaven. So this is also a very potent time in terms of your life direction, because, during this whole, up until May coming up, which isn't far away, you've sort of been in the midst. You've been in the midst of sort of reassessing or reaffirming your life direction. With Jupiter there, you see it's more of like a gentle reconsidering, like, sometimes a mentor comes in professionally and redirects us in a certain way. Oh, I missed Venus time. Ugh. Did I miss Venus time all the way? I did miss Venus time. I missed Venus time. My mama. I do like, Venus stuff. I do planetary hours. And I have little things that I do for Venus and other planets, but especially Venus. So anyway. You have Mars opposite Uranus too, you fucking pain in the ass. No! No! Don't do that. Like I said, no one can tell us shit. If anyone tries to tell you like, yo, you're doing that wrong, you're going to do it even worse just to spite their fucking ass. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, ouch. Pluto conjunct the moon, like really close, really, really close. You see, this is oftentimes mama trauma and the bipolar coaster. We have high highs and low lows. Where, and it's in Scorpio, your fucking moon, yo. Gosh. It's like you're a little psychic vampire. You gotta suck everyone dry. And it's in the 4th house. So your 4th house ruler is Mars in the 12th house. So I wonder if dad was an alcoholic or if dad had mental health or addiction issues. Or if dad just was not around. I'm not reading the comments right now, so I don't know what you're saying. But, dad could also be isolated or in prison in some way. Or you never knew him. So that sort of a thing. And Mars is really unhappy. But mom was not an easy person. Mom could have been abusive or domineering. She was your de facto father, probably. But then it makes us very intense people. I have it too, just not as close as you do. But you see, we can't love people the normal way. It's like we have to metaphorically wear their skin, like a leather jacket. We want to post pictures of them all over our walls. We want to do obsessive things. We want to stalk them from outside their bushes. You know, we get very creepy about being in love. It's like we want to consume the other person and have them consume us. We want to go to hell and back with someone. You know, we want to share our blood. Like, you know, spit your blood into my mouth, mommy, please. You know, it's a very intense sort of connection. Or that's what we crave, rather. You know? And so we find ourselves like either wedged into these abusive relationships, like being codependent or whatever, or sometimes we find ourselves being abusive because we're so possessive and controlling and we want to consume everyone, right? It's, I mean, for me, I found a lot of help through polyamory because, you know, then you have lots of people to be concerned with rather than just one. You know? I mean, you don't find your value through anyone, of course, but at least for me, being in that sort of arrangement, it made it just more obvious. And you're Gemini Mars, so maybe you are sort of more exploratory. I'm sorry, Gemini Venus, so maybe you are more exploratory in that sort of thing, or like to experience lots of different people. But when Saturn is in the 7th house, natally, it also makes us hyper independent. Like we don't want to rely on anybody but ourselves. So that's another thing that makes relationships difficult. Maybe you're sort of, maybe you wrap yourself up in saran wrap to insulate yourself from other people. You know, it's an aseptic type thing. Don't touch. Well, it's not even the don't touch me. It's like, I'll do it myself. 8th house is don't touch me. 7th house is leave me alone. I got it. I got this. I'll do it myself. There's a sense of hyper independence. You see? So the trick is for this, when it comes to relationships, if that's what you want, you know, to learn to not be needy, but to compromise and to like let someone do things or let someone do this. It's allowing people, it's allowing yourself to be vulnerable, right? And allowing people the space to come in. I know that sounds all fucking woo-woo kind of emotional bullshit, but it's true. It's true. I joke about Aries Mercury. It's so funny. It's like they break every fucking thing they touch. You know, I had an ex-girlfriend who was Aries Mercury. She's like, well, how does this work? I'm like, well, not anymore since you fucking touched it, yo. You broke that shit. Aries Mercury. You know? They want to hammer everything in. Like sometimes things take finesse. Aries smash. You know, that kind of shit. Taurus. Boris the Taurus. But you see, you have your 10th house ruler in your, or sorry, your first house ruler in your 10th house, which is pretty auspicious for success and recognition. So you got that going for you. And then your 10th house ruler is in the 11th house. So typically that lends itself to notoriety or not necessarily fame, but, you know, notoriety or being public or making content or having an audience or something like that. So
That's me. I have my 10th house ruler in the 11th house.
well, start doing something. Oh.
Ouch! Shot to the chest.
I'm kidding. You are doing stuff. I'm kidding. Anyway, you are doing stuff. This is part of what we're doing.
This is stuff.
This is stuff. And it's things. You know.
Oh, I love your sports bra, by the way. It's so cute.
Oh, Puma. Yeah, well, I was just gonna wear my sports bra with my hoodie, but it got hot. See, I have these big fucking lights on me, and it makes it really warm in here. And then I turn them off and it gets super cold. And then I put my hoodie back on and I turn on the heater. you know. Yeah, I like my sports bras. That was like my aesthetic for a long time, wearing a sports bra with a hoodie, like Sporty Spice or whatever. But now I'm trying to look like more of a preppy bitch. So
Okay, is there any ending notes you want to talk about, or?
no, I think probably everyone's already gone. Just like I have memberships up now. And so please check out my YouTube memberships. It's really, really cool. I'm doing a lot of personalized horoscopes for people. It's really cool stuff. And I'm trying to go more and more YouTube and away from Facebook because Facebook sucks. And YouTube is like, doing stuff for me. And I like being on film. So, I mean, this is a film, it's digital, but oh, that's my planetary shit going. Anyway, we've gone 40 minutes over, Amber. I appreciate
We
you for
have,
your time, and I
of
appreciate you
course,
for taking my abuse. It's wonderful.
always.
And then we'll probably talk in a second. And everyone else, I love you. Thank you for coming. Please like the stream. Consider giving, right? Super thanks, super chats. I really appreciate donations for all this wonderful shit that we do.
Like,
And
sub, comment the stream, please. It helps with the algorithm. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share the YouTube channel, please.
yeah, please
Follow
bring your
us both,
friends.
Saturn Girl. Follow us both. Facebook.com/Saturn Girl. Facebook.com/Amber's Astrology and Readings.
Yes.
And book with us.
Help us and help me keep making wonderful content. So, yeah, the super thanks and super chats and YouTube memberships, you get personalized fucking horoscopes. That's pretty dope. So, shoot. And when we do lives, you're going to get prioritized with memberships. You're going to get prioritized with readings and all that sort of thing. So, we'll always get to you first. Anyway, I love you. I think you're wonderful people. And I appreciate you
Love
putting
you
up with
all.
Amber loves you too. And we appreciate you putting up with my abrasiveness and with Amber's, whatever she is. So with her loveliness
Me and my
and her,
passive aggressiveness, you mean?
no, you're foiled to my bitchiness. Yeah. So anyway,
Of course.
thank you very much, everyone. We love you so much. And we'll see you next week. Typically, we do this either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, and we'll let you know usually 24 hours ahead of time. So we love you. Mwah.